Well guys, it's plant propagation time. You can see this little sandbox that I made up already has a bunch of different cuttings in here. And today what I'm going to be doing is making cuttings out of the goji berry prunings that I took a few days ago. They're still very much viable. How do I know? Because I've waited several days after pruning before and had success propagating these. And if you look really close here, you can see where new growth is still starting to sprout out here. So this is a lot more wood than I'll be able to make cuttings. I don't really have room for it or the time or really the purpose. I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of plants propagated because why not? And I want to share with you guys the results. Over here, this is a cutting I took off my blackjack fig. And all these cuttings here are from the aronia berries. I did a little pruning, thinned those plants out. So I'm going to be propagating some cuttings from there. So already going in here, I've got figs, loquat, there's some merit collards, purple tree collards, and over here, these are some goji berry cuttings that I took a few weeks back, and you can see they're doing really well. Along with the ceanothus back here, looks alive and well, and we've got some autumn olive over there, along with the viburnum. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and pull one of these up and see if we've got any root development yet. Oh yeah. So you can see we've got some nice roots on here. And the way I'll be propagating my cuttings today is the same exact way I did this a few weeks ago with these cuttings, so you'll see how I went about doing that. So these plants can be left in the sand to continue to establish a better root system, but this is a great time to transplant these out as well. So here I've got a 20-ounce plastic party cup, and I cut some slits for drainage at the bottom using a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to plant this cutting out now. And for this planting, I will once again be using the Mycos, which is a mycorrhizal inoculant. This is going to be helpful right off the bat, and you just need a little bit just around the root zone to establish a nice resilient plant with healthy roots, extension roots. And you don't need to fill the soil to the top, save a little money if you're using potting mix. Water that in a little bit, and there you go. Now at this point, this plant is pretty much guaranteed to survive unless you really neglect it. So it's going to fill this cup with roots, and once I see roots start to poke out through the bottom drainage holes of this cup, then I'll know that this is ready to be transplanted out to the garden or given away, sold, whatever the case may be. So there you go. We jumped ahead a little bit, but this is the step after propagating your cuttings. Once they start to root, this is how you can get them going to the next stage. Or of course, you can take those rooted cuttings and plant them directly out into the garden if you have a place where you know you want to plant them. So on this channel, I've gone over many different types of rooting hormones. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using a shot glass and putting some of this Clonex rooting gel in there. I've mentioned in the past I've had great results with this as a rooting hormone. Now this stuff is really not cheap. I don't want to waste any of it, hence the shot glass. This allows me to use the least amount as possible, and I am doing a lot of cuttings. But there are some times where an application only calls for just a little bit, and although you can dip it directly into the actual container, I don't like the chance of any type of cross-contamination, so shot glass works really good for small amounts of rooting hormone. So first and foremost, a quality pair of sharpened and sanitized hand pruners is essential when propagating cuttings. Now this here is just your everyday alcohol prep wipe, and I keep these in my pocket at all times. That way if I have to do a quick sanitation of my pruners, they're here on hand. There we go, nice and clean. And to sharpen hand pruners, it's really easy. I recommend something like this as a handy dandy sharpening tool. Choose the side with the tapered edge, not the back end of the pruners. Then using the carbide end with a slight angle, make a few swipes. That's all it takes. Oh yeah. So I'm going to start off with some goji berry wood here, and you can take a cutting from any part of the wood, whether it's the tip or even in the center, all you need is 4 or 5 of the nodes that are growing on the edge. Those are just the little bumps where the new growth comes out. So take a snip right here from the center, and anywhere between 5 to 8 inch cutting is going to work just fine. Then you just dip the bottom into the rooting hormone. Make sure you got the bottom, not the top. And I suggest making a pre-hole. That way you don't rub off the rooting hormone on the cuttings way down. And it doesn't matter if the cutting has been sitting in the liquid for a little bit. Just like that. Stick it on in. And you're done. So I'm going to continue along and make at least a couple rows of the goji and then also a couple rows of the aronia berry. And a real quick way to go around and make a bunch of cuttings at once is to just grab a section of the branch, take out the side growth there, and just quickly cut it to size. Keep going down. It's that easy. And ideally, I'd say the best wood to use for goji berry cuttings is about this thick. If that's coming through, it's about half the diameter of a pencil. So as you can see, I've taken a couple dozen cuttings here in under a minute. Now I can just take that whole bunch of cuttings and stick it right into the rooting hormone. And proximity isn't really that important. You're going to be pulling these out before they get too large. I like to go, I don't know, 3 inches. You could even go a little closer. In some cases I do. And the rows I do about closer to 4 inches apart. If I recall, I made this box 3 feet wide, and now you can see why. I can reach the entire length of the box from one side. Makes it convenient for working. And there you go. I'm just going to water that in ever so slightly. I don't want to wash all the rooting hormone off either, but I want the sand to kind of level itself out. So just a quick spritz of water, and those are done. Bam. So the sand doesn't contain nutrients, unlike soil. And when you're propagating cuttings, you don't need nutrients to sprout roots and begin the growth cycle. I find sand to be really easy to work with, and although you could do this with a potting mix or just a nice well-draining soil as well, sand can be used over and over again, and I just am a big fan of doing it this way. And I mentioned in the past, I learned this technique from watching Mike's Backyard Nursery. He's got a lot of good videos covering plant propagation and sales, so if you're interested in learning more about that, I'll put a link to his channel below this video so you can tune into that. And I'm just going to be doing the same thing now with these aronia berry cuttings. And here's what those cuttings look like. A lot of life in here. You can see where each node is starting to push out new growth. And there you have it. That took all but a few minutes. It's that easy, guys. And as long as we're out here, let's take a look at some of these other plants and see how the rooting's going. So here we've got the purple tree collards. And well, this one will be easy enough to pull out. There we got some roots. Let me focus the camera. So there you go, some nice healthy roots already developing on this cutting that's only been in this box for about 2.5 weeks. So this could absolutely be ready for transplant right now. You could leave it in and just do it whenever your time permits. I'm going to plug this back in for now. And over here we've got merit collards, and these have been in here a little bit longer, so let's see if we're getting the same results. Very nice. So once again, we've got some really nice roots developing. So this really works, you guys. I'm going to hold off on pulling up the fig cuttings and the loquat. I'm pretty sure those aren't going to have roots as of yet. Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to just check one of them, see where we're at. Let's see if we got any roots developing on here yet. Nope, just as I thought. I don't see anything yet. And that's because these plants are still dormant. They're not really trying to push out any new growth yet. That can affect the root development, so we'll give that some more time. Well, that's going to do it for now. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video helpful or entertaining in any way, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't already, I'd invite you to subscribe to the channel. New uploads every week, and I'm always updating on all the different projects going on out here. And so with that, hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll be talking to you again soon. Take care. Check this little guy out. Found him in between a couple bricks. I'm going to release him over near the hugelkultur. I think he'll like it there. This looks like a good home for him. Go ahead.